we might become his righteousness. Instead of ourselves, he offered him, so that we might become his righteousness. So that we might become his righteousness. So that we might become his righteousness. Holy God was offered for us, so we might become his righteousness. So that we might become his righteousness. Holy God was offered for us, so we might become his righteousness. Become his righteousness. We might become his righteousness. Become his righteousness. We might become his righteousness. We might become his righteousness. To become his righteousness. We might become his righteousness. Become his righteousness. We might 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 become his How can I truly show that I love you? How can I truly say how I need you? How can I really share what I'm feeling? Can I reveal my heart as I'm kneeling? How can I truly show truly that I love you? How can I truly say truly how I need you? How can I really share what I'm feeling? Can I reveal my heart as I am kneeling? How can I ever learn your compassion? Covered and clothed with Christ for my fashion. Turning aside, I feel godly sorrow. You confidently secure my tomorrow. How can I truly show truly that I love you? How can I truly say truly how I need you? How can I really share what I'm feeling? Can I reveal my heart as I am kneeling? How can I truly show I love you? How can I truly say? How can I say I need you? How can I really share what I'm feeling? How can I truly say? Humble thyself in the sight of the Lord. Humble thyself in the sight of the Lord, and he will lift you up, and he will lift you up. My Jesus is the Son. My Jesus shining as the sun, bright and shining as the sun. We've no less days to see God's praise. We've no less days to see His praise than when we first begun. When we first begun. So you must humble thyself in love. Get down and humble thyself in love. He will lift you up. Say, He will lift you up. I know that He will lift you up. Do you believe that He will lift you God is standing by, so hush, don't you worry, don't cry. God is standing by, so hush, don't you worry, don't cry. God is standing by, so hush, don't you worry, don't cry. God is standing by, so hush, don't you worry, don't cry. Oh, and when troubles come, don't cry, no, don't cry. When all your dreams and would-be fortunes pass you by, oh my. Oh, and when there is heartache, so many trials our lives.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our Navigating Life session. This evening's topic, we have how real men handle conflict. This is a program of the St. Andrew Church of Christ. We greet you and tell you thank you so much for being a part of our session this evening. We have two presenters with us, Brother Andre Allen Casey, as well as Brother Trevor Smith, who will be sharing on this topic. But before we get into things, I'm going to ask Brother Kirk, if he will, to open us with a word of prayer, please. Brother Kirk.
Let us pray. Father, we are grateful always to you for sending your son to die on a cruel cross so that we can live in liberty. Father, we pray, God, that as this pandemic ravaged countries, Father, we pray, God, that it will come to an end shortly, or at least on the contrary. Father, we pray for different persons who may not be feeling well. We pray, God, that you'll touch with your mighty hands and bring healing if it is your will. Father, as we embark on this topic, we pray, God, that you will help the presenters to remember all they have studied and to present it simply to us, that we might hear, understand, and apply it to our lives. We pray, God, that you will touch them. We pray that you'll touch us as we listen and participate, and that this will be a very fruitful session. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Brother Kirk. So before we get into our presentations, I'll be just doing some housekeeping matters. This evening's recording, as well as all of the recordings for our past NAV Live sessions, are on the church's website, as well as our social media handles. That information will be shared momentarily in the chat. So before we begin, we're asking all our participants to keep your mics muted for the duration of the presentation. At the end, there will be time allotted for a question and answer section. So please asking everyone to bear that in mind. So our presenters for this evening are Brother Andre Allen Casey and Brother Trevor Smith. Brother Andre has been a Christian for 33 years and a counseling psychologist for over 8 years. He has hands-on experience in counseling and serving several congregations and entities. He was trained in Alabama at the Christian Heritage University, and he holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Bible with a minor in counseling. He also has his master's in counseling psychology from the NCU in Mandeville. Brother Trevor Smith, he's a member of the St. Andrew Church of Christ and a behavioral modification coach, plus the CEO of Successful People Academy. He provides unique perspectives on interpersonal relations, as well as self-monitoring behavior. He's an experienced educator with decades of experience in corporate coaching, and he also authors 2 books, Success in Marriage and 7 Keys to Lasting Relationship. Brother Smith holds an EMBA in business admin from the University of the West Indies. So at this time, we will welcome our presenters.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Rohan, Brother Kirk, and welcome. Let me pull up my screen. Okay. Brother Andre, you all right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Ready to go. So, we want to welcome each and every one, and we want to deal with this topic that's very relevant at this point in time. I think it's not just Jamaica, but there seems to be, anyway, an increase in the reporting of incidents of abuse of women. So that's the inspiration for dealing with this topic as we go through issues related to how we navigate life. So let me provide some context for our discussion. So we want to look at the management of conflict as it relates to individuals with a tendency towards abusive behavior. So we have dealt with conflict management from the individual and from a wider perspective. But tonight, and maybe if it spills over into the next session, we want to look at conflict in the context of a manifestation that deals with abuse of others. And so We recognize definitely that abusive behavior is not the exclusive domain of men. So women also are abusive and children are abusive. However, as I indicated, we want to focus our attention right now on this issue of violence against women and the abuse of women, generally, not just violence, but abuse of women. And so that basically is the overarching goal of our discourse. If we can find ways to curb, reduce, eliminate, one say, this scourge of violence against women and children. So we will not focus attention on any role. Let me just be clear about this. We are not going to focus our attention on any role that the abused individual might have played or is continuing to play in the abuse. So we're not going on that road to say, but is the woman caused it, or if they had not done this? That's not the parameters for this discourse. This discourse really wants to focus on essentially men primarily, or I would say masculine behavior, because some women are adopting that role. So while men are targeted in the title, and we are saying, how real men deal with conflict, we recognize the critical role of women in the grooming and in the socialization of boys and men. Beyond that, we also fully appreciate, and we want to really make sure that we bring this out up front, the role that women have, the power that women have to influence the desired change. So women are not powerless. We have a great deal of power and strength to play a very strong role in making this happen. All right, so let us together produce the change that we desperately need. So that's the context. I'm gonna move forward with this discussion. So this is what defines us. Those of you who have been participating in the habits series, how to adjust habits, will have some indication of what we're saying here. So essentially, really, the circle starts from, or it is sustained by the rewards. So something happens. We get a prompt, some inspiration, some trigger for us to do something. We act, and we get some satisfaction from it. And we create an environment in which more triggers come. And so we have that circle. And that basically is how a habit is formed. And so this is what defines us. And if we are aware, conscious of this, then if we are going to make changes, we have to look at the rewards. Because if we cut off the rewards, if the thing is no longer satisfying us, then we are going to resist the triggers. And as we know from the habits situation, one intervening action is to change the environment. So I'm not going back down that road, but basically the key here is that rewards. And sometimes, as we know, as we have discussed, the rewards do not seem logical. Rewards do not seem logical in the sense that how could this person, for example, be abusing themselves? But it could be that they are saying that self is corrupt, so I have to punish it. So it might not seem logical, the actions, but basically we do things because we get some reward for it. Good. So arising from that, then we're going to look at some of the rewards, and I'm going to invite you. Brother Rohan actually said, keep quiet until the end. This session is different. I should have said that up front as well, that we really want you to be active in the process. We not want to rush through this because it is important for us to have this issue addressed. We also want to warn you up front that we want to keep it real. So if you want to share and you don't want to identify yourself, you can send a direct message to either myself or Andre, or you can rename. I see somebody has come in as anonymous. So that's a possibility as well, that because we do want to address real issues. So let us look at some of the things that are at stake. What is it? What are some of the rewards that are there that men would seek and that would keep them doing what it is that they do? I want to look at real men, okay? What's a real man? Okay. Real men want both emotional and physically intimate connections. Yes, the women will tell you, right? They only focus that men want the physical, but real men also want emotional connections. Real men also want to be respected. Yes. And real men want to be valued. They want to feel as if they're making a contribution, that, they have some use. Real men want to belong. Yes, they want to be a part of something. As a matter of fact, that may be one of the reasons why people say that the young boys actually go into gangs, because they need to be a part of something. So belonging is important. Real men want to be successful in whatever areas, or in multiple areas. They want to achieve success and legacy. Real men want to leave some positive footprints on the sands of time. I'm sure that you have some other rewards, some other goals, aspirations of real men. If you want to share, you can type in the chat, or if you want to mic up, please don't mic up and give us a sermon. Just make a quick statement and move on. All right. So,
hi, this is Kerry. Good evening.
Hi, Kerry. How are you?
Good, thank you. Hope you're doing well. So one of the things that as I'm looking at it, you have number one, which is the emotional and physical connections. But as I look through this, I don't personally see one that really talks about them being comfortable with expressing healthy emotion. So I was just thinking about being able to understand or express sadness, anger, frustration, etc., and not just have only one or two emotional modalities, right? But being okay and comfortable. Then if you're sad and if you want to cry, you can cry, or if you have some anger or whatever, you can talk about those things in healthy ways. So that would be the other part I would say about real men, to be able to have that emotional maturity, that you have a range of emotions that you can healthily express.
2 slides from now, we start a full discourse of that. Thank you. two slides from now, we go into all of that. And as a matter of fact, that is a platform that we'll be using to discuss. If that is a reward, if that is one of the manifestations of the characteristics of a real man, then following that should prevent you from behaving in negative ways. So it's coming up. Thank you, though. Bring that up on the table. All right. Anybody else? Thank you. Any real men out there want to? No, it's not just limited to men. Anybody? No? Uncle Andre?
No, go ahead, man.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
not yet.
All right. Okay. All right. So, men, yeah. So, are we seeking the keys to the kingdom, or okay? This time, what?
Good evening, Brother Smith. To you, sir.
Pardon me?
Good evening, Brother Smith, and the rest of the Brethren and friends, this is Rennie Bromley here.
Yes, sir.
May I go ahead?
Please, please, please.
It's often said that women, one of the things that women require in a relationship is security, not just financial security, but emotional security. I think, at least for myself, let me speak for myself, that is something that I always long for in a relationship, in my relationship, emotional security, as distinct from it being intimate, in that I always want to feel secure in that my woman is accepting of my role as leader, not to dominate, not to be autocratic, but to respect that leadership role. And in that sense, that is a kind of emotional security that I always long for.
Okay, thanks, Rennie. Appreciate it. Okay, so it's even more than belonging. It's yeah. Okay, thanks. All right, so we have some options before us. One of the things is that if we look at the connection, the relationship now, and we're talking now probably male, female, that sort of romantic, that's the word I'm looking for, relationship. One of the things is that if we deal with conflict appropriately, then our partner tends to be a little bit more, find us more attractive. Women find men who respond to conflict more attractive. What the literature suggests, and this is kind of surprising, is that the worst thing you can do is not to respond to the conflict. In other words, you might say, let me just leave that alone. But the studies indicate that women would prefer even a negative response to the handling of the conflict rather than to ignore it. So that's a little surprise. So it seems as if you're better off having a sort of animated discourse rather than not having a discourse at all. So verbal, emotional, physical abuse, those things really and truly, contrary to what some macho men might believe, those things cannot make you more attractive. And anybody, but especially women, would find it difficult to be intimate and to be heartfelt, have heartfelt intimacy under those circumstances. So while, as I tell you, we're keeping it real, while a body might be offered, there is a missing element, and the relationship has the risk of just being transactional. Yeah. So the man might get what it is, and there is physical contact, but there is no emotional attachment, or that is dramatically reduced. Also, when you abuse, and what I'm linking back now is to the rewards, and to say that if you don't deal with conflict effectively, you might not be getting some of the rewards that you want to seek. So abuse also diminishes your status. Whatever you think, people, you lose respect. People lower you, put you on a lower peg when you behave like that. And you'll be surprised at all levels. People understand that the capacity to deal with issues in a rational, peaceful, harmonious way is a sign of somebody that is to be respected and to be held, with great respect. If you are unable to do that, then the level of respect is reduced, and actually the belonging is also put at risk because there is a wall, a barrier that gradually is being built up. Right. And so you might also find that the desire to cooperate is stifled. So while you would want to have assistance in achieving your goals, you're going to find that you're not getting the level of support willingly that you would want. And as for the legacy that you're leaving behind, well, what does that look like? In some instances, it leads to generational violence in the family. Okay, but why? Are there factors that are linked to the abuse of women by men? I just want to look at some from a study here that was done by the Secretary General's department and reported by Laura Fergus. And here are some of the issues: systemic gender inequality and subordination of women, the whole socialization process. And we just have to pause and think about that. Women, in the family, girls are treated differently from boys. Boys can get away, run up and down, run, play marble, do whatever it is. The girls have to be, on a much more rigid management. It's just, yeah. If you have one set of money, you send the boy to get developed. Well, that used to be the case. No, all the education going to the girls. But there is a history of inequality, unequal treatment of women and the subordination of women. And in some cultures, it's really, really serious. One of the concerns they have now about the issue in Afghanistan is what will happen if the Taliban control the government. Women would be in even greater plight. So that's one area. And we see it right here in our community, that there is a problem. Yeah. Even in the corporate world, we're sophisticated, we have a problem with the glass ceiling and, where it is. When you look at parliament and all many areas, there's no question at all that there's not gender equality. So that's one problem. And of course, if you see it around you, if you have systemic subordination of one gender, then it gives you license. It invites you to behave in a similar manner. All right. So another one they've identified is agreement with sexist, patriarchal, and/or sexually hostile attitudes. Again, this is similar, but one can see that this is a little bit more granular. So we basically are focused on division related to one's gender. And there is, when we hostile attitudes, meaning we would actually want to put down women. Age of the individual, level of education, and their propensity towards antisocial behavior also is a factor. So here, what we can see is that the person is already, put it this way, not an ideal, an excellent example of good citizenship. And of course, what you normally do is that you vent or put out your bad behavior against people who are less powerful, who are not as able to resist and to fend for themselves. So this is another area. We know about abuse of alcohol, talk about that already. And then this is the one we're talking about now, where one of the legacy of wife beaters and people who abuse women is that this is manifested in a recurrent cycle. So we grow up and we see how mommy is abused by daddy, and we sometimes have that as a sort of example of how it is that men relate to women. There is a study, this is not related to this, that, or I don't remember his name right now, but he actually does the study to indicate about the problem with abuse of mothers of the boys, you know, the serious beating and so on, which also then causes them. Mr. Gale, Dr. Gale, who social anthropologist, who actually did the studies in Jamaica to say that a lot of high percentage of the persons who he has interviewed was guys who have gone off track, in prison and so on. They relate back to abuse as children by their mother. So we need to look at that as well. And then finding norms, finding examples around us of people who go through and behave in a healthy way. That's the key. Where do we find examples of people who are exhibiting how real men, how relationships should be conducted? Low self-esteem. This is a huge factor because if you are insecure, then you respond aggressively in many instances, because that's how you try to protect your manhood, or you've tried to get some kind of respect. And of course, Andre can speak to the loads of personality disorders that would actually lead to men abusing women.
Brother Smith?
Go ahead.
Yeah. I don't want to. I hope I'm not throwing it too much, but
we have 100 years.
I do believe that the misinterpretation, like I use that word, of religion can lend to ideology about how men marginalize women. Men are the head of the house. Men are head in where their congregations are concerned. Men. And so sometimes you find that there's a misconception that since I lead you, then it necessitates that you understand your place. And so if with such a belief system, oftentimes, boys growing up in the homes see how their mothers are treated by their dads, and of such where the female all of his can call, and as such that he has an entitled mindset and mentality. If he's the only boy in the house, he say, take care of your mother. You're the man now. And so sometimes, so even although it is his mother, then understand that, listen, mommy, you are my responsibility. And so I'm just adding another one to your list to say how it can most definitely lend to a mindset that you are under me, you must be subservient to me, you must listen to when I talk, and if you fail to do, and so to an extent, I have a right to tell you what I want of you and from you, and so with that right, there ought to be no pushback. You're supposed to line up and align yourself under my authority, and so I think we have to be amazingly careful that we don't take certain things to an extreme, and even let female believe that you know, you're second to me.
Amen. Yeah.
But that you're second to me, and I do believe it contributes a lot to how boys grow up and what they see, and just feel that, look here, I don't care what you have or what you don't have. Once you're a woman, you know, I am not only head over you, but this is how my headship is going to manifest itself.
Yep. But Andre, when I was preparing the slides, one of the things that I, you know, when I'm going through the matters, I was very careful. I said to myself, whatever it is, don't go anywhere near the weaker vessel or the weaker this or the whatever it is, because it's actually exactly what it is that the scriptures reinforce, or put it this way, the scriptures are used to justify the subordination. And that's why you see here, and the one that I'm looking at now, I'm saying we have to re-examine how women are viewed. And that's why I want to say, neither male nor female, we are all one.
Yeah.
Great.
And I might quickly add then, you know, it's that passage in Peter that says weaker vessel.
Yeah.
The context of weaker, literally, doesn't, what was talking about how she chooses to align herself or the position. But what is more important in that passage is the consequence if the man failed to treat her a particular way.
Okay.
So where there were no consequences meted out to her, the consequence was meted out to the man if he failed to treat. As a matter of fact, it says must treat her with respect.
Right. Right.
So obviously it could not mean that so what he's called upon to do in how he treats her could not, it doesn't align itself with her being his where he's going to lord it over her. Let me use that term. You know.
Yeah.
So even that passage, there is a misunderstanding where that word is concerned. Just saying.
No, correct. Let alone get into abuse. And then this one, I like this one, and I like the ESV version that says, husband, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. I love that. So in the context of what we're dealing with, it's great, right? So Kirk agrees with you, and Kerry is saying also it was speaking about the historical context of women at the time. Correct. Right. So yeah. So that's one of the first things that we had to do. So I wanted to get that out, that we need to change the mindset as to how we view women. All right. And then second thing is to look at the qualities of a real man and to see how these. So this is where we want to go down that road. I'm going to look at the chat in another minute, but we want to start by looking at the emotionally intelligent man and what that really means. Right, so Kirk is saying, yes, that misunderstanding takes company with manipulation and deception. Absolutely, bro. All right, so back to where Kerry was a few slides back. The emotionally intelligent man is self-aware. They are in touch with their feelings. Now, I can tell you, you go with some men and talk about being in touch with your feelings. And you might feel some fist. That's a woman thing. What are you talking about? In touch with your feelings. But the emotionally self-confident, self-aware man is in touch with his feelings. Well, you might not have been there, but we can just look at it. When we dealt with conflict, one of the things that we approached the whole conflict management situation with is to understand the impact of internal conflict. Internal conflict. We're not talking about anything outside. No, we're just talking about you get up and something isn't right. Something is nagging at you, or you have some issue that you have not addressed. Many of us just ignore it and push on. But when you're off kilter, you do not think as logically, as you ought to. So you go outside, somebody bad drives you or something happens, and you still haven't stopped to think about what's going on inside. And by 3 o'clock, when your colleague just asks a simple question, there is a Soufriere volcano explosion. So that's one of the things that we have to understand, is that we need to get in touch with what is happening. You need to own what is going on, recognize, identify it, and to see if you can resolve it. You understand what the course is, right? Somebody's asking that it's not pink, sir, it's purple. Okay.
But I think that's kind of one of the points, sorry, which is like with the socialization, like, okay, you can't wear certain colors, or you're going to be effeminate or whatever, you know, there's kind of some of these rules and things that we just kind of just embrace as if they're truth, you know.
But he have no colors. He's not pink. This is light purple. All right. So yeah. So you're in touch with your feelings. That's the first thing. Emotional intelligent man is self-aware. They understand what's going on inside. And key is that they can identify the triggers that set off their reactions. And having identified those triggers, they now try to work out where they can respond instead of react to them. So they set about changing the environment, avoiding the triggers, looking at the situations that lead to it. So the emotionally intelligent person is aware of all these things. They know that in this scenario, my response tends to be this is going to happen. And so they construct, set about the environment, set about doing things. But if you're not aware, if you don't take the time to be in touch with what's happening to you, then you're just going to just continue to roll through life and roll over others. So the emotionally intelligent person is not only aware, but they are also conscious of the implications of their actions. This is not a situation where you made me do it. You know? And if you never, then I wouldn't have. People understand that they are responsible for their actions, and they are aware of the impact of their actions. So they're not oblivious, you know, to what's going on, and they're not blame ready to say, okay, fine, you know, what you want me to do? What you want me to do? Right? So also, because of that now, they are a lot more aware that they're really not islands unto themselves. Some people are actually walking around very blinkered, where they're, you know, it's just me, what about me, what I'm about, and they're not looking at the fact that they are others and that it's not self-sufficient, and they're not only existing, and also all our actions have implications for others. And so actions matter. All right. Self-control is another one of the emotionally intelligent features, that the emotionally intelligent man stays in control of himself. This is so important, that I'm only human, you know. But everybody does the same thing. No. The emotionally intelligent man understands that there are principles, that he has values, and he needs to abide by those principles and those values. He needs to live up to the values that he has set for himself. And so self-regulation is critical, and he strives to practice self-regulation. So it is not just, well, everybody do the same thing. What you want me to do? It's not that. Something goes off wrong, and I'm going to find a way. I'm going to correct it. I'm not going to excuse myself. I'm not going to just say that this is a normal human thing. No. There is better, and I must do better, and I must find ways to do better. That's how the emotionally intelligent man operates. I was I was on Cool FM on Thursday night, and one of the things that came out to me was that Jamaicans, we think that they are misusing the word ignorant, but they are in fact using it correctly. When them say him ignorant, you see, man, the least little thing him fly off. Oh, you're so ignorant. But it is a fact that the person is in fact ignorant in the sense of lacking in knowledge. And so that's one good way to understand that, yes, the emotionally intelligent person seeks to avoid being ignorant, or ignorant, as we say, and jump at any thing that comes up. The motivation, the emotionally intelligent man is also motivated to function at a very high level. This is an ambitious person who wants to perform. Well, perform is maybe not the right word, but function, to operate at a high level. Because again, one of the things that we talked about was respect, that you want to be valued. All of those things don't just happen by chance. We have to set out to put ourselves in a position where we can, in fact, add value, where we can, in fact, earn the respect of others. Yeah. So striving to be the best that you can be is important. You don't want to be the lowest common denominator where you're just normal. Everybody does it, so basically that's you. No, you need to stand out. All right. And so one of the areas then in terms of that motivation towards excellence is that you will avoid having things slide. You will also recognize, and I think we know that, when we let up in a particular area, just look at your life and to see that once you start to slack off, let us say you were a regular studier of the Bible and you stop studying the Bible, then you're going to start to see that you start to eat more junk food. Then you're going to start to see that's what happens, is that one area of slackness not addressed start to filter into other areas, and then that in fact precipitates a general decline. Check it out and to see when you're in sync, then you tend to have everything going right. But once you start to have areas where you're falling off, then it tends to permeate. Yeah? Little leaven? Okay. So be careful then. All right. Empathy is the other big emotionally intelligent feature, where this is where it is now, where you can actually be in the other person's shoe. If, and boy, this applies to gender, age, everything. If we could actually just understand a little bit more about what's going on with the other individual, the level of conflict that goes to confrontation and escalates will be dramatically reduced. Matter of fact, a lot of it would be totally prevented in the first place, because you wouldn't necessarily rush up to accuse and to put down and to refuse to accept any explanations. People have problems, people have difficulties, and the emotionally intelligent man would recognize that. You can actually see, maybe you haven't gone through it, but you can understand that people have struggles, and you can understand that you have your own struggle. It might not be the same as the other person, but you could see how in your case, a struggle that you have, a feeling that you have had for such a long time that you can't get over. How then can you turn around and say, but I talked to you so many times. How much time I must talk to you about this? No. So if you have this kind of empathy, this kind of capacity to stop, to reflect on human feelings, human strugglings, the differences in terms of somebody's state of mind and the impact that that can have on their decision making. Those things will make a huge difference to how you manage conflict. That's a thought. Again, remember today we are open to comment. People skills, emotionally intelligent. Men have good people skills. They find ways to get along with people, no matter what the situation. Just think about people, people like that just have many friends, you just never see them in a quarrel yet, and you just feel drawn to them. Anybody can identify with that situation, that this person is warm, they just invite you to be a part of whatever they are doing. And somehow, where others are complaining, others are making fuss and fight, etc., their only involvement in that might be to show somebody that maybe you're not thinking about it the right way, or try to explain it so that you bring down the peace, bring down the tension. That's a great quality. And when you can exercise this, when you can demonstrate this quality, one of the keys that come from that then is that I think it gives you some latitude. So maybe you are off kilter at some point in time, and people will say, "Oh, no, that is not how Andre stayed. No, that's unusual." So you actually get a blight if you find yourself in a situation where you're behaving out of the norm. So that's one of the things that we would want to encourage. How can we set out to make ourselves more appealing? It sounds like a popularity contest. Then that's not the right word. But how can we seek to be more, well, not is even more engaging, but create an environment of peace and harmony and joy and happiness, and people just want to be around you. And when you are in that environment, everything is great. Let me give you a quick insight into where I'm going with this. I can share 2 work experiences. Yes. All right. One of them is awful, right? We used to have a management meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning, and there was that kind of Russian roulette thing to find out which manager's brains were going to be kicked out by the CEO in this meeting. So every day, by 9 o'clock or so, when people went to the desk, their heads were down because somebody would have been beaten up and embarrassed and so on. And the rationale behind it was, by the way, that if iron sharpen iron, so therefore, if we are tough with each other, we're going to be more productive. Don't quite agree with that. Another work environment was like a party. Well, almost a lot of it was partying as well, but it was like a party. You just couldn't wait to get to work, and you couldn't wait to, you don't want to leave to go home, etc. Those of you who know me might know the history that out of that situation, a relationship developed, and out of it came 3 children and a happy marriage. But anyway, that's another matter. So I'm just saying to you that you can have environments that are seeking for peace, and you could have another environment where animosity is at the tip of your tongue, pushback. All right, so Beverly says, how much of a role does conflict between 2 people play in an abusive relationship? Is the abused person a victim, or is in some way a participant in the abusive action. Oh boy. All right, Beverly. Okay. 2 quick comments on that. We just did, are you the victim or the victimizer in your relationship? We had like 2 or 3 sessions on that. And then also today, one of the contexts that I had made out was that we're not going to examine the role of the abuse in the relationship, because I think enough pressure and hurt is already there. So when we want to emphasize now to say, okay, it's your fault why this is happening, I don't want to go down that road. I want to look at the other side to say, you have a responsibility not to make that happen. So from the abuser side, rather than to look at the abuse. So if you check the chat, you will see the links. The recordings are there. Brother Andre did a wonderful job in 2 sessions talking about the victim and the victimizer in the relationship. Okay, I hope that is all right. Okay, just try to move this a little forward. So that is the emotional intelligence things that I wanted to look at. I want to look at another quality, which is the ability to show respect.
Brother Smith?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah. I just want to re-emphasize, if you don't mind, in relation to the emotional intelligence, that the first 3 aspects that emotional intelligence, self-awareness, self-management, and motivation. Those 3 puts it squarely on you, the individual. The other 2 speaks now about the kind of relationship you can have with people, in terms of empathy and social skills. But first 3, and I think there's a point I want to emphasize here, that every individual literally have a role to execute the first 3, and literally in that order, so that the next 2 will be able to be exercised. We have to look after ourselves first and foremost. We have to find out, why am I having this particular emotion? Why am I feeling this way? Because if we don't go through that process to find out, then we might find that we might be overreacting because we don't understand the context as far as those emotions are concerned. So it's very, very critical. And I just think it is. I think it is important that when you talk this thing about emotional intelligence, I think it is very, very critical for us to understand that we shouldn't just, pass by this. Okay, it's good information. No, it is not just good information. It literally is the foundation for us to manage our relationship with ourselves, so that we can manage our relationship with other people. And that's why we're having so much conflict, because we are not managing our own relationship. We're not managing our feelings. We're not understanding what is happening to me, and what is it that and the power that I have to decide what am I going to do with those feelings. What am I, okay, I feel this particular way. I feel this particular way towards women. Okay, now that you have that feeling, why do you have the feeling? What kind of value can you attach to that feeling? That feeling, if you execute the feeling, what are the consequences? So I'm saying to process the feeling first and foremost. What's happening to me with that feeling? Then after I process, after I go through that process, very important, then I need to know, how am I going to manage the feeling? What am I going to do with this feeling? Okay, am I going to let it rule me? Am I going to inform myself? Am I going to follow the feeling? What am I going to do with this? And then Once I recognize that in a healthy way, I can do something with this feeling, then in a very healthy way, that's why I have the motivation. I am now able to regulate and dictate how I relate to you, right? And not allow the feeling and not where I feel like, because I have the feeling, I have to execute how the feeling that I'm having. And so I'm going to stop now, but I'm just saying what it went through, sir. I think persons really need to understand that this is an amazing buffer or for us to be able to not only manage ourselves but manage our relationship with others.
Thank you, sir. Critical. All right. Let's go forward. Please jump in at any time, Brother Andre, or anybody has any questions or issues. So respect. Jamaicans always respect due. Your mother said that in good morning anyway. Respect. But do we really have a healthy respect for others? Especially if they are in a different age group, especially if they're younger than us, for example, or if they are women, or if they are in a lower status, do we respect them really? So let me just talk a little bit now about how some of what we're talking about can be manifested or can be observed. Reference, how do we refer to the others? We have women on the call. How many of you, I would love to see it in chat, are very, very pleased when you're called a gal? And you, as a matter of fact, you would love to be one of the gals in the bungle. How many of you, just if you could just quickly say, me in the chat, love to be called a gal? I'm not seeing anybody in the chat. Taking long to type. Right. So again, we go back to the socialization, go back to that systemic problem. Why would you refer to somebody like that? My girl, yeah. That is not a term of endearment, or, it's not a term that is designed to uplift the individual. So we have to look at that. But it's not just the word girl, but just generally, how do we speak to others who are of the opposite gender or in an age group that's not ours, or whose status is not up to par for us in the same level? Just think about how we refer, how we speak, how we name, how we call them. Then look at the dialogue. Look at how we speak to persons. Yes? I'm not saying that we need to speak to women the way that we speak to guys and so on. But a little bit more respect for who they are, humanity, people, real people. Yes, those things I think matter, and incorporated in the speech is the sense of ownership, my this and my that, and is the way, is the context. It's like it's like a prisoner, it's like a slave in some instances, the dialogue that comes across. And if you speak like that, then I think it gives you the leverage. We go back to the triggers. Remember that diagram that we had where the triggers will come and then that's going to prompt actions and you're going to get rewards. So if you talk like that, then you might start to have a sense that, but I do in fact have ownership here, but I do in fact have the right to do whatever. And then if I have the right, has been exercised in my speech, then I can also put it in action in terms of physical abuse, following upon the abuse of the verbal abuse. So that's something that we have to look at in terms of how do we communicate, right? And then, of course, body language. Do people get their space, or are you, like breathing over the, it's just, how do you communicate? Do you communicate in a non-threatening way? Or does your body language continually, or frequently suggest that there could be physical abuse? Those are something to look about. What about treatment? We're going to expand on this treatment thing, but if you have a relationship, is the person like furniture, or are they real? Are you proud to, be with them? If you go out, are you, happy to present them and to have them participate in whatever dialogue is taking place on an equal footing? Or are they really effectively to stand behind you, and maybe they're just a prop, So you look for an attractive woman and you have her on your arm, but she's not to talk and she can't, and worse, in a conversation, she could actually have a different point of view from yours. No, that's a no-no. But that's basically what equality would be. That's basically what you would do if you respect somebody, right? And if there's a discussion about a matter of which you know nothing, you should keep yourself quiet. That's how you would do. If you would go out there and there's an expert in the discussion, you're not going to babble around. You're just going to sit down and try and listen and learn. Is that how we see women and treat women? Yeah. Yeah. Andre is saying, Andre can jump in anytime, Yeah, Andre is saying partnership, not ownership.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So this issue of the respect, I think, is important because, again, it opens doors to abuse. Yeah. Just think about, this is a very dangerous one, but I'm going there. But it is not, I'm not calling anybody animals, but it's a different thing. But if you have a nice dog that, one of the pedigree dogs that you buy and so on, you treat them almost, royally. A little mongrel, move, quick, whatever it is. Yeah. But they have the nice thing, you go and buy the food and you cook that food. Mongrel, scraps. That's what I'm just saying to you. It's just think about the mentality that how do you treat people, that you respect? Yeah, mongrels. Yes, see mongrels dress up. Gone to Canada. Everybody want visa now. I can't get it on dog. All right. Let's move the truck forward. Oops, I'm going the wrong direction. All right. So this is following up on the treatment thing. Royal Caribbean Terriers. Oh boy. A laughing matter here. Right? Okay. Breed of choice in adoption proceedings. There we go. So we will look at then what is a sort of dovetail to this now. That the capacity to hold things there. That's what a real man has. And again, let us just talk about men and the cars. Yeah? Get your new car, wash it sometime or twice a day, and polish and, deal with it and care. And if a man ever scratch it, man, is that, yeah? Well, we know. The man with the We shoot until the youth because somebody draw near his expensive vehicle. So that's how we treat things that we treasure. Yeah. So what if we were to enter into relationships where we treasure our partners? Don't just enter in a transaction, you know. Please be careful. Again, when we deal with relationships, we talk about take time. Take time. Make sure that you select the right partner so that you can treasure that person. That's important. And if we really treasure our relationships, then we're going to make every effort to preserve them. We're going to do what is necessary to preserve it. Yeah. If Stephen is, I don't know if you have a Julie mango tree, you take care to make sure that you do everything to make sure that it bears because you treasure it. Right, Kirk? So that you can come around with your crocus bag for supplies. Yeah. You treat it well, you handle it with care. That's how we should be looking at our relationships. Treasuring it. If I am treasuring something, do I throw it around? Do I, fling it down? No, I don't do that. I put it down quietly, wrap it up in, cloth to make sure that it is safe. Yeah. So that's the mindset that I think will help a lot with the abuse of others. Yeah. Parents, men, fathers who love their children, treat them that way. But we should also bring that kind of level of caring to the partner. Yeah. We want to create an environment then in which the partner feels protected and the partner feels empowered to function at their best. That's a mindset. It's not just running along and then hi now and then we have a physical connection here. It's really more about a partnership, and that's what we're talking about. That we want to help each other. Marriage to me is like a business, if you want to look at it that way. Not cross. All right, just take your time with me. Let me explain what I mean. Is that when you're going into it, nobody goes into a business to lose. Yes, you don't bring partners into your business for them to bring it down. So when you enter into that kind of thing, you want an upliftment. You're going into a relationship, into a partnership, for the partnership to raise up both of you or whoever it is in the partnership. So that is the mindset. To what extent then are we investing in creating an environment where both of us can be our very best? If you start to think of your partner like that, how much time do you have to be abusive? Why would you talk to them in abusive ways, in demeaning ways? This is your partner. This is the person that's trying to help you to go to the mountaintop. Should we not be rallying each other? And when your partner achieves something, should you not be celebrating and to say, yes, but we shouldn't be jealous? Some of the violence that takes place is because the woman is the main breadwinner. And so that jealousy takes place. And go back to the self-esteem. The man doesn't feel as if he is as valued as he could be. The woman is more independent. Yes, because this is not slavery time. This is a new time where people are empowered and they can speak freely and go about life just like you. But in those scenarios, there's a tendency now then to exert influence because of their seeming feeling of inadequacy. So, Hermione, Hermine, I'm going to call it that. I know it's not that, but agrees. So that's one of the things that we have to get ourselves out of a space where we are tying down people and putting them in a box and asking them to sit down and keep themselves quiet over there because we are the leaders, we are the heads, and so on. And the women don't have that freedom to be an equal partner in this quest for excellence, in this quest to get to the mountaintop. We are free and we are together. And you want a little push now, I give you. Want a little push, I give you. I slip, you hold me by the hand, pull me up. You slip, I hold it. And that's it. And we don't have to get back down into the gender roles now, etc., because we are, in fact, striving to achieve excellence. So Gregory is saying, yes, some men cannot manage certain successes of their wives. It's a real problem. Absolutely. All right. So,
Brother Smith?
Go ahead, boss.
I just
this the screen here so that you have to talk and not there. So I don't see when you open your mic. Go ahead.
I just want to equally add here that some of the other another reason we're for men to carry out the violence, and I'm just postulating something. I'm not saying definitively it is so, but provide power. And I use the word provide power because there are 3 P's that generally generate into a man. And so, but one of those speaks to the idea that he must be a provider, he must be a protector, but he must also provide power. And provide power has to do with the idea that I must be in charge. I'm in charge of your health. I'm in charge of your wealth. I'm in charge of your security. And you know, so when you read that thing earlier, I was trying to correlate. I was trying to say, how is it that women kind of feel a little bit I'm not going to use it. I don't want to misquote it. Attracted to the male that seemed to stand up and say, hey, and I'm saying it makes perfect sense now because he provides the power. He provides the power, and she feels protected by that power that he's also providing. And I'm kind of saying, remember, a man's job is an extension of his personality, you know, and also helps him to provide, and also to have the power, so to speak. And so, if any of those 3 P's are rejected by the male, then he not only feels emasculated, but he also feels undermined. And once he also feels undermined because he is doing these things, not for another male, by the way. He's doing these things because of the relationship he has with whom? With a female. I'm just saying that to say, so can you imagine the same female reject those P's of this male? Then it equals to aggression. That's all I'm saying, and violence. Once these 3 P's are taken away from him, because he is executing these 3 P's that is a part of his innate development, and as a result of that, now we say, but who is he doing it for? He's doing it so that he gets the accolades, the praise of the family or his female companion. And can you imagine she's rejecting those things? And if that is rejected, then I'm just saying to you, I'm not putting any blame on anybody, but I'm just trying to give folks a possible, another possible reason as to why men may choose to be violent, and therefore learn these things about your emotional intelligence how to treasure your partner is the antidote if those 3 P's are rejected. I guess that's my point.
Good, appreciate it. And one of the things then that we have to learn, again, the emotionally intelligent man, the real man, knows that he has to adjust to changing situations. And today, gender roles are not set in stone. So if your spouse happens to have a big job, maybe you can't even land one. You can still be, if you want to call it, the provider in another sense, in the sense that you can keep the house together. You can do all of those kinds of things. I linked up with a school friend of mine a couple of years back, and basically he's the person that moves people around. He's the person that deals with preparing the meals, and there's no problem with that. You just have to get to a sense of maturity where you now understand that there's a change, but it's a partnership and we're going to succeed. So if you have the greater capacity to earn more than I, why should I tell you to, no, you have to come home by so you can't work late because you have to come home and cook. Whereas no, I am just have a little, a job that I'm going on there, but I'm not earning anywhere near where you can earn. Why would I back you up, in a corner to say, well, no. Let us make the partnership suffer so that I can live out some kind of stereotype. It absolutely doesn't make any sense. Yeah. All right. Some points here. Charm is saying it is a real struggle. Janice is saying a household is divided against itself for not able to stand. This is just creating a playground for the devil, divide and conquer. Right. So that's where we are. The key here is to understand that roles have changed and we have to roll with that. But I think really now, when I'm talking about holding dear, it is this treasuring your partner and working with your partner to get to a place of where we succeed. All right, let me see if we can get through. Obviously, there will be a part 2. We can start to think of the date from now. I'm always mix it up so you know that I can deal with it. Oh, this is going to be the 1st of May. 1st and 3rd, where am I? Yeah. 1st of May, okay. We will continue with this. All right, so other thing is communicating effectively. Oh boy. Everybody knows that at the heart of conflicts that go off track, communication is the culprit. Communication could have solved the problem. Communication did not take place in the way that it ought to, and so that's why you have the problem. So real men have good communication skills. And communication skills doesn't mean talking, nice talking, etc. The key component of communication is the capacity to ask questions. Capacity to ask questions and to ask the appropriate question to get to facts. That's critical. If we asked more and told less, we would have much better relationships. So we need to find out how we separate fact from fiction. I use truth, but truth is not the opposite of feelings. I don't know what is the thing, but I use truth from feelings, from emotions, so that we actually try to get to what is really at stake here. What are the facts? What is at stake? What are we dealing with? That, to me, is a prescription for preventing conflict in the first place and getting to what it is that we are discussing. I see Stenet has a thing. I'm going to read it in a minute. So we need to be able to express ourselves clearly so that we can facilitate a meaningful exchange of information. All right. So questioning, asking questions in a way to find out really what's going on, to get to facts, to listen. Those are important factors. Problem is that people don't listen. Sometimes, in your anger, because you're ignorant, right? You just make assumptions and you just drop down the person's throat and there's an explosion. If we could get to a point where we could actually still ourselves for a while, to be in a position to ask some questions, not in an aggressive way, just to find out what's going on. I'm going to read this thing, Stenet, don't worry. But let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. This is like work now, so it's not man-woman situation, but like supervisors. So let us say somebody's chronically late, coming on late. I'm saying to the supervisors, guys, before you start to reprimand persons and try to go into the middle of disciplinary actions, ask, find out, just ask some questions. You don't have anything to lose. You can still discipline the person afterwards. So I was suggesting now, I was saying, so this person is coming late. And I'm saying to you, ask John. So John, what happened today? I noticed you're late. And they're saying, Sir Trevor, it's a waste. I know why he's late, because he's always late. And I'm saying, what do you have to lose from just asking what had happened? Suppose today is a unique day where he's only there now and he's worried about his job because his wife is, at the hospital and he really wanted to be there, but he decided that he has to come to work so that he don't get fired. What about it? How would he perceive you now in his state of anxiety and concern? You are here jumping down this road. So that's one of the things I'm just suggesting. Just ask, even though you think you know the answer, ask a question, because you can be mistaken. All right. So let me just read Stenet, because we try to respect our time. So definitely we'll carry over into May 1. Not sure if this was mentioned earlier, but if I may just return to the treasure aspect that you mentioned earlier, it is important to treasure your partner, but it's important to examine this person before you choose them, said that, as a partner, if they will appreciate your treasuring her, because quite a number of violence against women are linked back to the men treating them well, and they somehow accept the treatment under pretense and showing little or no interest in the individual and may want to break away after achieving certain objectives. Ooh, okay. All right, Stenet, one of the things that we're saying, we're not looking at anything that the abused might have done or is doing in this discourse that we're having. We just want to, they have enough problems without actually bringing their roles into it. What could happen is that we could look at preventive measures, in which case we talk about things like that. But we did in fact talk about making sure that you choose correctly. But we don't want to get into what it is that somebody might have done to find out, to stimulate or to cause, I wouldn't even like to use the word cause, because you can't do that. But anyway, that people might use it as an excuse to abuse you. So, yeah, but that's a point that could be in a more general discussion about male-female relationships and what causes conflict and tension in the relationship. Yes, it could be that one side isn't responding as well as they could, etc. But that's for another discourse. Right now we have so many cases of men abusing, and it actually manifests as physical abuse. Now it's not only the verbal abuse and emotional abuse that we definitely have to deal with it. So I mean, just quickly, just take a little wrap up before we go. Are opening the mic now to any questions and comments. For those of you who came in late, we sort of looked at what is at stake. So here, very quickly, we are saying that this is basically how a habit is formed, and the reward is what keeps it going. And so we have to be careful then to look at what is it that we want. And so we looked at some of the things that men want as a reward for going forward. So we looked at that, and then we looked at how conflict could actually frustrate the achievement or the gaining of those rewards. We did look at this study as to some of the reasons why women are abused. This is a study that we looked at to see a number of areas that we discussed. And fundamentally, it is that there's a systemic subordination of women. It grows up in the socialization. And so low self-esteem is another big factor in that. All right. So the other thing we can look at now is how do we actually get past this? And we discussed the whole question of the misuse of religion, the scriptures to actually further place women in subjection. And we use these passages to indicate that that's not what is intended in the scriptures. And then we looked at what real men who are emotionally intelligent set out to do to help them to better address these issues of conflict and so on. And one of the things is, as Brother Andre also reemphasized, is that be aware, be in touch with your feelings, identify what they are, and learn that you can, in fact, control them so that your actions are not just reactions. You can actually respond to life unfolding events in a controlled way. And then also your motivation is there to be the best that you can be, to achieve high levels in all aspects of your life, and to understand that if you allow one area of deficiency to take root, it tends to spread over. So a little leaven. So you work on that, and then the other two now would come from putting yourself in the shoes of others, and also developing your people skills. Right? And then we looked at respect, and we talk about some of the manifestations of disrespect, how you speak like the gal, and how you speak to the person, and the body language, and how you treat them in a demeaning kind of way. That's us there. And then we talk about the treasuring, how you handle things that are genuine. And that's where Stenet was coming back to say, yes, but this might be misplaced and not received in the way that you want. Or when they've got what they want, then they're gone. And to me, let me tell you the truth, I'm going to get myself in trouble. I can't talk long about it this time, no, but just give me a couple of minutes. We'll be wrapping up here. Is that the people are free. So if you go into a partnership and the person wants to leave the partnership for whatever reason, they are free. Let them go. If you want to kill yourself because they're going to kill yourself, but no matter, kill them and kill you. Just go, sorry. I need to get that off my chest. Is that it's foolishness now? I can't live without you. Yes, you can live without me. And the people are free, they're not slaves. And we talked about the communication. I think that's where we ended. All right, so let me look at chat now. These are the last words. You can help me with reading the chat. All right. Janice. Relationship is about partnership, not ownership. Right. Each person should be given 100% each. Always looking out for the best interests of each other. Love your partner as you would like them to love you. Amen, sis. All right. Does accepting gifts or good treatment mean she's obligated to choose the gifter? Right. That's a good question. Right. Yeah, you want to give me the gifts? That's fine. All right. Father Lancelot was with us. He's saying that he found the discussion productive. Is there an episode for the future on real women? Boy, we take on some things that amaze us, so it's possible. Miss Baptiste is saying thanks. She would like to have a copy of the presentation. Okay, it's available. Our admin will actually tell you again. I think it's in the chat though. Where if you scroll up, you could actually see. All right, so admin is placing down where all of the sessions so far will be. All right, and you probably ask Ron or Engel to actually, since you have put your email there, to send it out. So that's where we are. As I said, we'd like to be disciplined so that we don't actually abuse your time. So I want to thank you. And we'll extend, we have 8:03, we got 2 more minutes if you have something that's pressing on you and you might not be in the next session. Just mic up, our brother Andre, you can actually use that time as well if you have anything that you want to share as we close down. Just want to thank you for your participation.
I particularly, well, I like everything, but treasuring is such a wonderful thing. We're reminded from the word of God that bad behavior must not dictate our response. You know, do good to those who despitefully use the persecute to say all manner of evil against you. So we have a responsibility to do the right thing, even if not getting the right treatment. So that's all I have to add.
Yep. Okay, anybody else? Okay, saying thank you, good content. Colleen, oh, sorry. A direct message. All right, Sri, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so that's where we are. I appreciate it. May 1, is that Labor Day still? No, that is. But anyway, we will be here and we will go forward. I'm just gonna ask you one favor. We do spend time, Brother Andre is a professional, spends time doing this kind of stuff. So we have meals that are well prepared, hopefully. If this is of value to you, share the link. It's going to be the very, very same link that we will use. So make it available. We have a lot of violence taking place. That's reported. Can you imagine what's going on that's not being reported? So please invite others, share with others, so that they can benefit from this. Thank you. I am out. Admin, over to you.
Thank you, Brother Smith. So I noticed there are no other questions at this time. The information for the church are on the screen. They are in the chat as well as it relates to the recording content. It's on the church website, our YouTube page, as well as our Facebook page. And of course, our contact information is there. We meet on Sundays 9 to 10:30 at 77 Red Hills Road. or using the same Zoom link. We start sharply at 9 o'clock. Thanks everyone for being a part of our session. And as Brother Smith had mentioned, we will have a part 2 of this series about conflict, and that will be on May 1 at the same time. Thanks everyone, be safe. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, boom, ba boom, boom, ba boom, ba boom.